Welcome to the Mayo Clinic Ophthalmology Podcast, brought to you by Mayo Clinic. I'm your host, Dr. Andrea Tooley.
And I'm Dr. Eric Bothan. We're here to bring you the latest and greatest in ophthalmology, medicine, and more. In today's podcast, we're doing something special. We're talking about the end of a podcast co-chair with my friend, Andrea Tooley, and the beginning of a new podcast chair with my friend, Brittany Scruggs. So for me, I just want to share this time with both of them as a unique opportunity to talk about being podcast hosts and what it means to share in the podium and what it means to say goodbye and say hello to a new voice at our table. So in today's podcast, we have the opportunity to wrap up a season after 2 years of podcasting with myself and Dr. Tooley, and transition to a new voice at the table with Dr. Brittany Scruggs. And as the lone voice, I just commented here before the podcast started about how this is like the morning show changing faces. You're like, wait, you can't do that. But also just the joy and emotion in that. And I just have to say is we're going to talk about you, and then we're going to transition to Brittany, and then we're going to talk about you again, I think. So this podcast has been going on now for 2 years. And it's just been amazing to look back at it every 2 weeks, sending out messages, stories, testimonies. And I have to say, behind the scenes, I was sort of crazy nervous about what in the world am I doing when this young whippersnapper of a doctor, and now I need to say that differently. That's
no,
actually degrading.
It is not. I love being young.
I'm going to say it differently.
I'll be young forever, please.
I'll say, when this rather new colleague of mine with a lot of passion and a forte in social media said, would you sit at a desk with me and interview people? And I remember thinking, I have no idea what to do other than to talk a little bit, but I have no idea what that means. And it's just been a joy these last 2 years of my career of fulfillment in ways I didn't know that I could be part of. And I just have to say thank you for bringing me along on this ride.
Oh, wow. That's so fun.
We've had a lot of interviews. So people that haven't seen or tuned into all the podcasts in the past, look back at the library. Sitting next to this host has been a blast because she has brought energy, passion, creativity. Things just flow in a beautiful way when you podcast with this Dr. Tooley. But it's certainly been fun to interview so many hosts. I just say thank you for all that energy you bring and wisdom and perspective and leadership. So it's been good.
Thanks, Dr. Bothan. It's been a true joy. A few years ago when I was newly out of fellowship, our chair, Dr. Sophie Beckery, came to me and said, I want you to start a podcast. And at that time, Mayo was the only academic ophthalmology center hosting a podcast. And we were really excited to share the voices of Mayo Clinic, share our expertise, and get to interview people all over the country and world. And I said, well, I'll only do it if Eric Bothan is my co-host. And so you were the non-negotiable there. And I've just loved interacting with you and your energy and joy. And I think our combined dynamic's been super fun. And so it's a major transition, but I am so excited for Dr. Scruggs. You are the absolute best person to take over this spot. I could not imagine a better voice. I think I'm coming in, or I'm leaving the same way I'm coming in. Like, the only person who can replace me is Dr. Scruggs. And so I'm so excited for the two of you to take it over. But Brittany, let's introduce you to the podcast sphere. Tell us who you are, your background, all the things, so that we get to know your voice. We've podcasted with you before, so you've been on episodes before. But as a host, tell us all the things.
Okay, I'm quirky.
We love it. We love quirky.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm Brittany Scruggs. I am from Louisiana, born and raised from New Orleans. And I'm the oldest of 4 children. My family, they're all dentists. Everyone. My dad, my mom was his dental hygienist. My grandfather was a dentist. My sister's a dentist, and she's my dad's partner. So amazing. I am not the favored child. But I became an eye dentist, so here we are.
Exactly.
Yeah. I went to Tulane for med school. I did my MD and my PhD there, and never thought I was going to do ophthalmology. Yep. I was 100% in for neurosurgery.
I could see that for you so
Yeah,
much.
I
You're
still
just
can
a
see that.
glutton for punishment
Yeah.
in every way.
Totally. So I did a PhD in neurosurgery and did like regenerative medicine, stem cell, gene therapy work with different animal models of neurodegenerative diseases. Then when I went to medical school, when I went back to medical school, year 7 is when I decided, oh, wow, ophthalmology has a lot to offer. And retina is still brain tissue.
It's just like neurosurgery.
Yeah, and I can, wear the hat that I like to wear, which is do research and do regenerative medicine, surgery, clinic, teaching, all the things that I thought and now definitely need and want. So I ended up switching to ophthalmology kind of last minute, and I'm glad I did. It's been a beautiful career. I went to University of Iowa for residency and had wonderful mentors and did a lot of research as a resident, learning what gene therapy and stem cell therapy looks like in the eye, which I really didn't have experience until that point. Then I realized I love pediatrics. Like, I love being with children and I love retinal pathology. So I was a little bit torn. Like, what do I do? I love kids and I love retina. Like, how do I make sense of this? And some of my older mentors, they aren't old. They're just prior mentors said, well, you should do peds retina and inherited retinal diseases. You can kind of combine, everything that you love into one. And so the rest is history. I decided to go to a fellowship that had a really strong peds retina foundation. My mentors there trained me both in adult and pediatric vitreoretinal surgery. Did a lot of inherited retinal disease work both in residency and in fellowship. And then in the summer of 2020 is when I was applying for a job. It's a
Perfect time to apply for a job.
It's a hard summer to apply for a job when you are so niche, right? Like, I am peds retina, inherited retinal disease.
And
all I wanted.
There was like a hiring freeze on right?
Yeah.
COVID, like doors closed,
Yeah.
no traveling, no visiting, no
Correct.
hiring. It's over.
Exactly. So there was one opening anywhere, and it was Mayo Clinic. Yeah. So I'm thankful. I've been thankful since the day that I interviewed that this is the perfect job for me. It allows me to be a clinician, a surgeon, a scientist. I have protected time for research. I operate on pigs mostly. So every other week I'm doing pig surgery every 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the season. And then I get to do pediatrics and adults. And then I have protected time for inherited retinal diseases as well. So clinically, I'm very satisfied and very happy. And truly, it's an honor to be sitting next to both of you. Over the years, doing some podcasts with you, I've been amazed at how, the following and the impact of this podcast. And so truly, you reaching out and saying that you thought I was a good fit means so much to me. So that's a little bit about me career-wise.
No, I love
It's
it.
interesting hearing your story because you made it sound like, oh, this was the one place that worked. I remember when interviewing you and just going, whatever we do, we have to
No, we
have her
have
on
to.
our team.
I was gonna share-
Brittany Scruggs is like, you could see it then. She was going to be a superstar
Yep.
in ways that just change our field and change our department. And we thought, I hope she'll come.
No,
And
we
so
all
now-
felt that
we
way.
all felt that way. And now, fast forward a number of years, it's just been wave after wave of appreciating how, whether in the lab or on our department meetings or inpatient care, you've been phenomenal. And so, yes, as this chair opens up, going, who would be that right fit with not just the academics, the clinical forte, but truly what we both appreciate about you is you bring joy, you bring creative communication styles, you bring empathy in situations. You're
curious.
You bring your curious.
I love that.
The interest in peds, which I share in that career niche. There's just this family nature to what our team tries to be together as we bring in hosts, and so you're perfect. And so we're just excited to have you as my new co-host and for this podcast. going forward. It's exciting.
It's funny that you shared that, Eric, how everybody really, really wanted Brittany, because I was going to say the exact same story. We're 1 year apart. And so I was brand new on staff because I started in 2020, right when you were applying. And I think this was my first staff meeting ever, was the staff meeting when we were discussing whether or not we should hire you.
I hear it was pretty heated.
No, because I will never forget this staff meeting, because it was the best staff meeting. I'll never forget it. And I don't remember. This is the only staff meeting I ever remember. I don't even remember our last staff meeting a week ago. But we were discussing you, and the faculty was obsessed with you. And every single
Fighting
person.
over who's going to be the one to drive out there and help you pack.
Well, exactly. Everyone was like, we have to get Dr. Scruggs. We cannot miss this opportunity. Like, whatever we do, we can't not get Dr. Scruggs. But then we also had another applicant at the exact same time, Dr. Starr, who's been on this program before, or been on this podcast a million times before, and is also phenomenal. Like Michael's fellow, also retina. We had one retina thing, and the faculty's like, but it has to be Dr. Scruggs. But it has to be Dr. Starr. But you're both so phenomenal, and
we hired you both.
And so finally, Dr. Bakri said, well, why not both of them? And I think it was just this applause. Like, everyone was like, yes, that's the best idea ever. And it was the best, because we hired both of you.
In one night, yeah.
But I'll just never forget how much not hiring you was just simply not an option, you know. Yeah. And you have just gone above and beyond with every initiative that you do. You are a workaholic in the best way. I mean that as a compliment, that you're so passionate about everything you do. So I know you'll pour your heart and soul into this podcast and connect with people and bring new, great info about ophthalmology to all of our listeners.
So we are all, I transitioned to the Mayo Clinic after 13 years of being at the University of Minnesota on faculty, and then I've been here going on 10. We've all had transitions when you think back in the last years. So just as I first want to hear about yours, but even comment, I'm thinking about for listeners out there, they're getting to know us, they're getting to know Brittany now, Dr. Scruggs in a new way as our host. But let's talk about transitions, if we can, just because we've all been through that, of how you talk about deciding how you knew this was going to be a unique spot. But for listeners realizing either A, should I move locations, which you just went through, or for fellows graduating, or someone that's just recently moved, let's just talk about little pearls, tips from what you've been through, and you're fresh off that. Before we do, let's just say, Brittany just shared kind of how she came to Mayo a number of years ago. Share to the audience what your steps are, because they're just hearing now we're changing podcast hands.
Right.
So share where you're going.
Sure. So I'll publicly announce, this is Dr. Tooley speaking. I am sadly leaving Mayo, which I never ever thought I would do. I thought I would die here. And my family and I are moving to Western Kentucky. We're moving to Paducah, Kentucky in December. I'll start my new job in January of 2026. And it's been a crazy whirlwind past 6 months making this decision. I think that coming from residency and fellowship, we really see mostly academics. We don't see private practice. But ophthalmology truly is a private practice dominated field. About 80% of ophthalmologists are in private practice. We know this. And it just never even crossed my mind to consider private practice. I loved Mayo. I loved residency. I loved resident education. I like publishing. I like research. I like the whole thing. All of it. I like the complex cases. And I was just an academic girl through and through. I thought that was going to be my forever life. And absolutely adore my job here at Mayo. Dream job. 100% my dream job. But life changes, and my husband and I have 3 kids. We long to be closer to family. When I think about, I've said this before, but when I think about truly what I want in life, it's a big table full of family and friends. Like that's really, really what I want. And we have that big table in Southern Indiana, and we're just away from it. And more, it was weighing on us, what everyone is down south, and why we're the only ones not there. And so I started investigating what life in private practice would even look like. because there's not an academic center there that's close to home. There's just not one that's close. And honestly, I think it'd be hard to go to another academic center after Mayo, because Mayo truly is the best, and my heart is here. So I just started putting out little feelers, like what would that even look like? And everyone in oculoplastics said, oh, you have to go solo. That's the only way. You can't join a multi-specialty group. Oculoplastics isn't well suited for that. You got to go solo. And the thought of going solo was just seemed so daunting to me. Like, I didn't want to do that. I think it's exhilarating to some people, really energizing to some people, but I was thinking, no way. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hang a shingle. And then out of nowhere, this beautiful practice in Paducah, Kentucky, which is about an hour 45 from our whole family, just kind of fell out of the sky. And it's a solo comprehensive doc, and she's built an absolutely beautiful practice, and she's ready to retire. And so another solo comp doc and myself are going to hopefully buy her practice and live out her legacy as partners. And really, I'll be bringing oculoplastics to an area that does not have oculoplastics. So it's like starting solo light. I'm solo oculoplastics, but entering an existing practice. So it took away all the fears that I had about building from scratch. But I am hopefully going to serve a community that has not had my services, and I hope I can do good, real work for people who need it. I know it's going to look really different, but I'm excited, and that's what we're going to do. And it's been really tough to leap into a total unknown and leave something so comfortable and so familiar, but we're going to do it. And, if it doesn't scare you, you're not doing it right or something, because this really scares me. And it's super hard to leave such wonderful friends. But that's my update. That's what we're doing.
I remember somebody once said, if you're in a hiring process, it's always, there's a red flag that should go up when you find someone that's either running away from something or running to something, meaning no place is perfect.
Right.
And if a person's running away from a job, what really is the dynamic? Or if they're running to a job they think is the holy grail, which maybe we can say Mayo has been for us, but you're likely the expectations aren't there. And so this sort of, I don't want to leave, but I think I need to, and I'm excited to go, even though it's may not be, it's sort of that every job is probably a mixture of elements that are not perfect but are perfect in both places, and as long as if you have that balance, it's probably a healthier move. And that's what resonates so much whenever I've talked to you about this, like, what are you doing? But yet at the same point, that's so cool, you're doing it for family.
Yeah.
Share, just in your own perspectives, and coming out of fellowship, there is insecurity. You talk about fear for people that are looking right now or thinking about moving. Thoughts on framework of walking through that? And it's something you go to work every day and you're trying to do your jobs, whether it's fellowship and you can't always talk to people about what you're thinking and worrying about or praying about, or just perspectives on that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I appreciate about your story is that you listened not only to yourself, but to your family, right? Your partner, your immediate family, but also your extended family. And you realize that that's something that you were really missing. And then your priorities change over time, especially when you start having children and you build a family. And those priorities change how we make decisions. And I have realized that through all transitions in life, that my husband, my daughter, my family, I have to listen to the people I love and who have, either raised me or who have gotten me through training, because they're very, very important. Yeah. We no longer can be selfish, right? So for me, transitions and like, where do I go? Where do I become a consultant? It also is like, where can I raise a family? Where is my husband going to be happy? My husband clearly is thriving in Rochester. He's leaned in hard to, volunteering and, being involved in the community.
Yeah.
He's so awesome.
I think he's cool.
He's so cool.
But yeah, for you, I'm actually really proud of you. I can't imagine the hard conversations that it took to get to where you are right now over the last 6 months. Hard conversations you never thought you were going to have. But when you reevaluate priorities, sometimes it's really important, right?
I think one thing I remember, with Academy, with the Yo committee, and with the residents, we always say, your first job is never your final job. And I totally did not listen to that. I was like, yeah, but not for me. I only have to find a job once. And, I just never thought I would have to go through it. And
what is the percentage?
Oh, it's like,
it's high, right?
It's super high. It's way more than 50%. Like, nobody stays at their first job. And so to know I'm in good company, and then to also reassure people that you don't have to stay at your first job, even if you think that it's perfect. And it might be perfect, but things can change. There's seasons in life. There's different seasons in life. Just because you're doing something now doesn't preclude you from doing something different later. And you can always build, you can always change. You're not in this lockdown forever. And which I really thought, like, this is it. I'm going to be here for 40 years, and this is what I'm going to do until I retire. And now I'm going to build something totally new. And I'm going to have to learn so much about the practice management side of things and all these things I've been shielded from by being under a big academic institution. And that's scary and exciting. And I think I'll grow. And I hope I'll be able to contribute to other people who are going to make a big change, or like, what does it look like to go out in private practice when I have no idea what that even means? Like, I don't know anything about I know a little, but about billing and coding, or like even running my own clinic. Like, there's so many new things that I'm going to have to learn.
Do you have a mentor through this process? Someone who can help you with that transition, but also the private practice voice of what does it look like practically?
I have so many people who I've reached out to hold my hand through this, to say, what does this look like? What am I doing? What do I need to learn? It's amazing how many people are really willing to help. I've had 2 or 3 people who helped me in the contract negotiation phase, which I'd never negotiated a contract. I didn't know what that was like. I had no idea.
There are no contracts at Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, it's not even a handshake. Mayo's like, come and you work. And that's like, there's no contract. And so I didn't know anything about what that looked like, what salary or how a reimbursement or any of that looked like, how to structure. We did kind of a market analysis, because there's nobody there doing oculoplastic. So to say, is this even a viable practice? Are there enough patients there?
And who is we?
The existing practice that I'm joining, and then me on my own. I had a couple medical consultants who really helped me, names that I got through Academy, through friends. What I was so surprised with is when I called some people and said, help me, everybody's like, yes, I will help you. And the amount of people who've helped me, it's just crazy. Everyone, oh, I'm so excited for you. Let me tell you this. Think about this. Like, really amazing. People have just gone out of their way to look at this pro forma. Do these numbers add up to you? Well, yeah, but don't forget to ask about this. And look at this, the valuation of the surgery center, and how am I going to buy into it, and what should that look like, and all these things that I'm having to learn. So yes, I've had incredible mentorship from people that I thought we were in total polar opposite careers, and now they're guiding me so much, and I hope that I can help them. And there's groups, there's like the solo eye docs group. I don't know if anybody listening knows about these groups. There's really wonderful groups of people in the same areas of life who are helping each other out. And I love that about ophthalmology. Ophthalmology is the best. It really is. It's like, in your time of need, people will rally behind you, no matter what it is. If you're in an academic center and your kid is sick, your friends rally behind you. I had that experience, and I was like, man, Mayo is the best. Like, everybody just rallied behind me when my kid was in the emergency room. And then it's like, when I'm leaping into the unknown, everybody's like, let me help. So I think the best advice is, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And don't do it on your own, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I don't know if you felt that way building a research practice.
Yeah.
And finding mentorship.
It takes a village.
Right?
So I have an executive coach.
Love.
Which I think is wonderful. I meet with this person every other week.
Through Mayo?
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah. It's been a game changer, actually. It could be as simple as, you need to send that email, Brittany. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't want to. We have to do hard things.
I love that.
But yeah, and just priorities.
Yep.
My priorities 4 years ago when I started are different than they are now as I'm building my lab and mentoring people. And I have a PhD student and a master's student and technicians and people who rely on me not only by salary but to-do lists and getting out and defending their dissertation.
Yeah.
That's on me, right? So I need to make sure that I am transitioning as staff. Like, I'm not staying stagnant, right? I'm being creative and thoughtful. I'm getting better at time management so that I can invest time in other people. Because now it's less about me and more about my team and my village. And that takes change and hard conversations and asking for what you want, not doing the surgeries that no longer bring you joy. Whatever it is, like there's something that's probably in whoever's listening. There's something on your schedule every month or every week that like is hard, right? That you really is not bringing you joy anymore, and maybe it's taking the place of something that you could fill it with joy. And I've realized that there are some things that if I just exchange it, then my life is still full, but it's bringing me close. It's getting me closer to my goals.
Chris Camp was here on a podcast recently and on the human optimization project, and just speaking to all the different areas of our life. There's so much on our plates, but how do we intentionally think about and prioritize? And that you're asking her about mentorship is phenomenal, because at each stage, whether it's making a practice transition, building a lab, or entering into leadership in ways that are new to you, those resources and communities around you, and oftentimes just being intentional to ask for the help or the engagement. In this case, a life coach is a beautiful piece of teamwork.
Executive coaches are awesome. And how are you combating burnout and filling all the things? I always say I feel like time expands to fill. What am I trying to say? Time expands to fit what you put in it. It's like a purse. If you have a big purse, somehow you end up filling it with stuff.
For sure.
That if you have a small purse, then you fit all the same stuff in it. It's like, it just expands. And that's been my experience. And as long as the things are filling your cup and energizing to you, then I think that combats burnout. But how do you see, like, you're adding the podcast on now, that's a new thing that you're adding.
I'm glad that fits in her
right?
purse.
Yeah, so how are you going to fit that into
I have a big purse.
Exactly, you have a huge
it's
purse.
the Barney bag.
Perfect.
All good questions. So when I'm talking to my executive coach and I say something about burnout, he says, that's for your therapist. I think that's really important. The boundaries. I also go to therapy. I think that's important to share.
Yeah.
Right? I do that every other week as well. And so I'm taking care of my mental health.
Love.
And I'm taking care of my work-life balance. And I'm being honest. And I have my husband come every once in a while and we do like marriage counseling.
So good.
And we don't even have problems right now. It's more of like thinking ahead. Like, what if this?
Yeah.
I know, like, let's problem solve on a problem we don't have right now.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think that's important not just for a marriage, but for your clinical practice and making sure your technicians are happy and that clinic is efficient. These are all problem-solving things that change. Every year is different, right? Because you're going to get new people and new problems. So anyway, all that to say is I'm very intentional with my time at home as well when it comes to coaching and therapy. I also think it's really important for me to play music. So I'm a musician. And
Phenomenal one.
thank you. So I am a cellist and I play cello every day. Most days. And I play with an orchestra here in town. I'm in the Pops Orchestra, and we have rehearsal every week. And I'm in a trio with your colleague, Greg. Yeah, and Tomo, one of our optometrists, and we practice on the weekends at Greg's house. And yeah, it's just that brings me a lot of joy to be challenged in that way and to give back. I play at church for fun. And so, yeah.
It's wonderful to hear all the different multifaceted way in which we have, bring joy to your practice and bring joy to your personal life, and in that regard, we're just so excited to have you as part of the joy of this podcast going forward. But joy over what has been to share it in the past, and so as this episode ends, we just look forward to new beginnings with Brittany, but also just ongoing friendships in your new adventure as you're heading to a new location.
Oh, thank you so much.
We're going to miss your
welcome.
voice, but excited for
Thank you.
Brittany's.
You can find all episodes of the Mayo Clinic Ophthalmology Podcast on our website.
Thank you for listening, and we definitely look forward to sharing more